So the network test for Elden Ring NightReign ended about a few days ago. I took some time, looked over some of the footage that I put, and kind of gave myself a little bit of processing time to understand everything that happened and see if I can basically explain some of the stuff that happened and what I feel about the game and future things regarding it. So, I had some successful runs. I had quite a few. I've had way more unsuccessful runs, and I feel like regarding going in solo without your friends, it is definitely easier to blame other people when it comes to how we're moving through the map. You can blame the people who are behind, just kind of following you the entire time, or you can blame the people who are basically the wilders. This is what I found. Most wilders would put a pinpoint on the map, but that pinpoint would be like all the way across the map or something, and it'd be like in the most inconvenient places sometimes. And so they would want to go through all this trekking around the area, wasting our time rather than going to bosses, collecting runes, and just being a little bit more efficient with our time, considering the circle is closing in type of deal. Then there's those people who, where we spawned in at, there's one location, there's a carrion knight, and I don't know why everybody decides, hey, let's try to kill it. It is the dumbest thing to do because not very many people are able to take that on, especially at level 2, even if you are at level 2. So it's one of those things where it's just like there's so much that could have gone better, but you can blame your teammates for it. But at the same time, there was so much stuff that I did too that I didn't fully know about, but I am still at blame. Because, a lot of people in this test didn't know that much either. They either never played a roguelike or they were just trying to fully understand the difference between the Elden Ring and the roguelite and seeing if they can implement just full on tactics from Elden Ring into it. You can, kind of. Like, there's definitely ways to do so. But with the network test being a network test, it's not the full game. So there was quite a bit of stuff just kind of gone from the game. So, what did I think about it? I would have to say I really enjoyed it. So I enjoy roguelites for the sake of making it. I can do it a daily thing, or I can just spend an entire day doing nothing but hunting or going through runs. The option is usually there. I think the most beneficial portion of it is like you can just go in for a day or once a day and just be like, I'll do a run today. Ah, that didn't go well. Oh well, tomorrow. That type of deal. And this feels like that kind of game. There's not a lot of people who are going to be able to do that, and it's understandable considering you're moving from Elden Ring to whatever this is. And this is quite a leap to the side from what it used to be. I think it's really helpful, though. I think the co-op in it is actually pretty fantastic. There's quite a bit of options that is a little bit hard to find sometimes. Like, one of the things that I was annoyed about until the very end was I thought there was no way to pinpoint or put pins on, like, items. But that's because there's no, like, official tutorial. That's only because this is a network test, but I'm sure they will tell you later. But there is a way to pinpoint on items. Since I was on the PlayStation, it was holding the triangle button, and then you could press the L3. It would then put a pinpoint on the item you were viewing, and it would actually kind of broaden it from what I could understand, that all the allies could see, hey, this is what the item is, like from afar, and like, hey, do I want to get that? Yeah, I do. And they could just easily go to it. I also like that you can just drop the items. I like how easy it is, that there's no encumbrance. You don't have to worry about weight. The only thing you have to fully worry about is that there's no like armor stat, so you have to constantly be leveling. If you have the runes to level. Sometimes you'll want to keep those runes for buying things, but that's only, in my opinion, I think that's only if you're like desperate for items. Like y'all were going through and you didn't find anything that's actually fully helpful, but in the item shop you found something that's at least decent. I think the item shop is more of a, oh man, we're not having a good run. Maybe this will have something, or maybe I can level up my weapon because I have a smithing stone. Now, the RNG in this wasn't too bad. It is limited, so there's quite a bit that could have been a factor to that. And the biggest thing regarding it is some people were saying, I'm already getting bored too fast, or something like that. I've done like 5 or 6 runs, and I think I'm pretty much done with this. I don't think I will get it, or something like that. And this is one of those games where, or this is one of those situations where it's just like, y'all are in the network test, so of course it's going to feel like that. Network tests, betas, demos, none of them are meant to last. They're just to give you a feel of what's to come and how it feels network-wise. Which, by the way, the network-wise did not have many jumps. There was only 2 runs that I had out of like, I want to say 17, 18 runs that I did. Only 2 that were actually like bad, like jumpy bad. I wouldn't say like aggressively bad in the sense where they were teleporting and you just died for no reason. They did have teleporting, but it was like slight teleporting, like moving slightly to the right, or they ran at you, but they went backwards or something like that. Like, it wasn't the most egregious things. It didn't feel unfair doing so. The game itself is already hard enough. We don't need glitches and stuff like that. But I think the map was pretty good. There were some people saying that the map, the spawns were all the same. That is very true. Now, when it comes to the RNG items, not all the time. Like, there's a church at the beginning that usually, not all the time, usually has a stone sword key, which is good for getting the stone sword circle bosses out, which those are used only for like leveling up. They don't drop anything. They are pure rune farming type of deal. So if you have a stone sword key, you use it and you end up getting another one, which I've had like 3 times where I killed the boss and then for some reason I had another one. I didn't get the item from them, but I just happened to have another one. Then you just go to another one, and your goal is to get really good weapons and or get level 15. Because once you're level 15, your stats are just boosted through the roof. They are fantastic. Now, there is emotes in the game. It's a little bit more different to get to the emotes, but it's honestly pretty easy. Trying to navigate which ones or which isn't too hard. It would be nice if we had a designated like analog, I don't know, something to make it easier, because like they have new features and they take up holding the triangle button. So I guess it's hard to find a good emote button. So the result that you have to go through is pressing the touchpad and then pressing triangle, and you'll find like all the emotes. It's not that bad. Emotes aren't the most important thing, but they are. Some people really enjoy them. One of the things I didn't fully like, I hope that this is in the full game, I'm not sure, is I would have an excess of items. There's just too much stuff at times. And by stuff I don't mean just like the crow feet or the crab defense thing or the turtleneck or anything like that. I mean like swords, shields, bows. Like there would be so many different weapons sometimes where there was no reason to pick up anything after a bit. And I feel there should be a sell feature at the merchant, because sometimes you want to get rid of something that you have, but you don't want to just throw it away. You want to get a benefit off of it. But there's no sell feature, so there's no like you can't just gather up runes for having something that you don't want to keep. Like it would bring in another tactic of, hey, collect this just for later, even though you don't need it. All of us are wilders, but we're getting like sorceries and stuff like that. There's no reason for us to have it. Let's sell it or something like that. I just want something along that line. That would be pretty neat. Another thing is whenever the circle closes in, it gives you this small little prompt at the top right. But the thing is, the main thing is it's small. They could have definitely done better. They could have put it like on the middle front and with a bit of, I don't know, hollowed out feature. You know how they do at the beginning of every run. They put like day 1, day 2 type of deal. I feel like that's what they should have done with the rain is coming or whatever, because it's so subtle that I don't even realize it's happening because I'm so focused on getting items or killing enemies. And I just kind of notice at the very last second when I'm running into a dungeon or running at a boss or starting a boss entirely. I just wish there was a better indicator, something bigger, something more noticeable, because it really sucks sometimes. There was no party chat during the network test. No talking to each other. Some people like that. I feel like this kind of needs some more communication. At the very least, and this is just for the sake of fun, not even the sake of efficiency. Proximity chat. Proximity chat would at least be more decent, because that's a lot more fun to deal with. There was quite a bit of relics you could get. The relics you got no matter what. You would get them at the end of a run no matter what. You didn't have to survive the first night. There's a lot of times you won't. And sometimes you won't even make it to like the boss area. But you'll still get runes. The runes are pretty weak once you're at that point. But once you get to the second night, they definitely do get better. It's the third night that's the most efficient way of collecting things. And I feel this is where the roguelite is really going to start taking off regarding difficulty. Because the final bosses, I feel, is going to ramp up. Like, you're going to have to unlock more bosses at the end. I feel like the main game is going to kind of teeter around that, where in this network test, the only boss you could get to was Cerberus. But there may be tons of things, like the black sword, Melania. God, that would be very interesting. Like, the harder the boss you choose, the better your runes. And some of the runes were actually pretty good. I liked some of them. There was one where I had a counter, and whenever I did a successful counter, or just a counter in general, it would summon these 3 spectral skeletons to do another attack afterwards. Or if I was walking, it would shoot down magical arrows just constantly. There was even one for Frenzy. There were some really good relics, or ending, like, RNG And some of the relics do incorporate some of that as well. Like there was one, I can't fully remember. It was something regarding the Duchess, where she just became invisible after a certain point and becomes non-targetable. So I feel like that's what they're going to end up doing. They're going to be have given us these smaller bosses, so it's easier runs at the beginning, and then later it becomes a lot more crucial and more intense. Now, regarding the map being the same, I feel like if the it's gonna go through all of the maps of Elden Ring, and that they really reamped the entirety of how it looks. So the entire map turns into what's basically an island on certain points. And I think that was actually a pretty decent idea. Mostly because when you go to the edge of the round table, you can go outside a little bit and you can just see nothing but fog. But you're like being placed on top of this island that has no ends. So I feel, well, I never actually got to the end, so it might not have been a full island. It might have just been blocked off. I haven't fully checked, so I can't confirm. Don't take me on my word on it was an island. I think it might have just been blocked off. I never took the time to go check. So they have one part of the map locked off, and there is so much potential for like a majority of the Elden Ring game to be placed in maps. Like there could probably be 8 versions of the map. Maybe, no, 8. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that would be a pretty big one. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, there could be 8. And some of them could be separated into what would be the, like, castle, not just like a castle, but like where the Erd tree is, or the Halleck tree. Like, be separated from that as well. The snowy area where the giant is, the cloud area where the dragons are. Like, it could be separated quite a bit, and there's quite a bit of stuff too. Heck, they could make an entire sewer system run if they wanted to, I guess. There's a lot of potential for the maps that they make. So I think that this game has a lot of content to go through. Them reusing assets and then like giving those assets more things is perfect. It reminds me of older games when they would reuse assets so that they could make the game a little bit faster, but at the same time improve on things that made the game worse. This is what I feel this game is. This is not Elden Ring. This is reused assets. I guess mini game Elden Ring. It's a full game that feels like a mini game. That's why it's not priced at a full game. I feel like there should be a drop-in mode, but at the same time, not really. It's one of those iffy things where it's just like, after a certain time, maybe they could drop in. If they just drop in at the very beginning, or, fill up the spot of somebody who left, because there was quite a bit of people who ended up leaving. I'm not sure if it was disconnection or if they just were upset or whatever. But it could have gone better. Sometimes you just want the 3, because having just 2 is not enough. It really depends on the people that are doing it. The spawn locations, I feel like 2 is not enough. I feel like they should have 3 to 4. Because in the network test, they put us on 2 locations. One was basically like more closer to the bottom right of the map. The other one was more closer to the top right. I guess a little bit to the top left. They should have it to where you can be placed like top middle, bottom middle, left middle, right middle, something like that. Like a little bit more variety, because The game does feel quite repetitive when your only zones are 2. Having at least 4 makes you feel a little bit more like you have more options, a lot more possibilities. But remembering every spot on the map is going to be the most essential thing to do. Knowing what drops where, the possibilities of things to drop there, and like any of that, that's going to really be what really makes a run the best and the most smooth way of going through the game. You won't be guaranteed your items of weapons and stuff, but you can be guaranteed that you're getting your runes, you're at least getting items, you're killing bosses at a more secure time, just beating the storm and getting to the next day. That's like the most efficient ideas to go through regarding that. I did get to the Cerberus fight. It was all right. It was pretty cool. He drops into 3 dudes. He has a heavy sword like chain that has a sword on the end, and it hits hard. It actually blows you back. If you have a heavy shield, he blows you back quite a bit if you're guarding. So there's no like way to counter guard. You just kind of have to be aggressive on it. He wasn't too bad. There was quite a bit of stuff that could have gone better during my like 3rd run because I got to him then, but not like the actual 3rd, like the 3rd time I got to him. Sorry, but there was quite a bit of stuff. Now regarding the characters, I love them. The characters are really well made. I was really iffy on the Wilder having the grappling hook because usually you want like the more agile characters to have it, like the Duchess. But the Duchess has a really good ability too. I could easily see them switching though. Wilder and the Duchess switching their main first ability. Because the ability of the Duchess is it creates a hollow version of the enemy, but it repeats whatever damage and attacks was done to it in the past like 3-4 seconds. It's a really good ability, especially if you're ramping up damage and trying to stun him. But I can see that being way more useful for the Wilder than it would be for the Duchess. At the same time, the Duchess kind of needs it because the Duchess does the least damage out of all of them, in a way, because she relies more on dexterity and maneuverability. So she's about like backstabbing and doing critical hits. While the Wilder is just pure damage, heavy swords, great swords, hammers, all that good stuff. The Hawk dude, the tank, I found him extremely efficient. I think he's a really good tank for sure, and I ended up getting a special ability with him that allowed me to, whenever I hit an enemy, instead of me healing on hit, I heal my entire team on hit. I just don't get any healing from it. So he's a really good like support tank type class. He moves around fine. He's not too heavy. The spear, like the halberd or whatever is okay. I'm not big on halberds, but it worked. I found some really good halberds that worked with him. But I don't think it's like the main thing I use later on. Around some points, I would just end up using swords. I wouldn't care about like how decent the halberd was or how much good range. The sword just allowed me to have way faster reaction after guarding. But his ability, his wind sweep is okay. It blows back enemies for sure, and it gives them a bit of a stun knockback, but it's not guaranteed. So sometimes the boss enemies will not be affected by it very much. Now, what I think is his best move is his ultimate. He flies up into the air and smacks to the ground. Now, the reason this is the best move is because it insta-revives all your allies that are downed. Maybe if they're not at 3. I didn't try at 3, but I definitely know at 2 and lower. And and it's a wide AoE. So if they huddle up together and y'all are at like Cerberus or something, you can use that ability. You don't have to hit the enemy, just hit your allies, and they'll just be back. It's a good way to revive them. Now, the hit to revive, I do not like very much. Like, I understand, it's actually kind of efficient, but it just feels so weird, especially with some of the janky movement. Some of the weapons were not hitting the allies. I would be attacking, I'd be swinging, I'd do 4, I'm out of stamina, and I haven't healed them once. It's one of those janky things where it's just like, it could have probably just been you drop a flask and they revive or something like that. Or you, for every little tick they have, it uses up a flask. So anytime they're at 1, you use a flask, it takes away from you, but gives it to them, and they heal up a bit. If they have 2 ticks, it takes 2 of your flasks. So it'd be a little bit more interesting, but at the same time, it would be absolutely harder. For sure. Because then, at certain points, when you don't have 3 flasks, or any flasks at that, you will not be able to revive them anymore. They're just kind of down there waiting around. Which you, if you're on the boss, you don't disappear. You don't have a timer like you do in the daytime. You just wait until they come and get you. Now, the Recluse, the Magician. Ooh, this was a good class. I think it's my favorite class that they've made. Like, the Recluse was a mage at heart. It was one of the coolest classes that they made with her, regarding her. Because there's no FP flask. There's no magic flask or anything regarding a magic flask. The way that you gain your magic back is after you hit them with the magic or anything that has a magical properties, they will end up having this little aura, this little circle aura around them. And that circle aura, you absorb. Depending on what that aura was, there's like 4. There's holy, fire, lightning, and regular magic, just pure magic. If you absorb 3 of them, depending on the combination that you did, doesn't matter what order, just the combination, you will end up getting a new ability. She's got quite a bit of stuff. She dashes in and does like a lightning strike. It's pretty cool. She does firebomb. She does a DPS ball with 3 magic. She even does this like ice AoE thing where she's invulnerable during the entire time. She even has something that makes her auto parry just cuz. And I think the Recluse is what most mages should feel like. It felt so good because if you use too much magic and you were not regaining the magic from the ether, you were just out of magic. But you didn't even have to use magic fully. You could just rely on your allies to be hitting them with it, and you'd be getting your magic back, and you wouldn't even have to do a single spell. You wouldn't need to use any of your mana, and just mash on your special. I didn't understand her ultimate too much. It's like some songstress thing. Puts a red thing on them. I didn't fully understand it. It dealt damage, but I used it just whenever. It gave me invincibility. I didn't care. I just did not remember what it did. And I didn't even bother to go look for it. I was too enamored with her primary ability, I suppose. Now, there's 4 characters in the network test, and there's 4 more to be revealed. There's a lot of potential. There's a lot of really good classes to go off of. Now, none of them are off of Elden Ring itself. Like, there's no prisoner, there's no cultist or anything like that. But I do think one of them will be similar to the Departed or whatever his name is. It's basically the level 1 with no gear or anything. Or maybe just a club. I think there's going to be one of those guys there, and he's going to be like base stats are always going to be the same every time you level up, and when you get 5, you get 5 on everything. You know, like it's going to be one of those risk reward characters. I think that's going to be one of those characters that's like extremely good and gives themselves buffs and stuff like that. I think it would be cool. The one I'm really curious is the ones that are focused on the holy. I think there's going to be a class specifically for holy damage. That would be really cool. I would like to see that for sure. I would like to see some sort of Beastmaster class, something that tames ghosts or enemies for a certain amount of time. I don't know. I would like to see one that buffs everyone in like speed, attack, and defense and all that. Like, but is like super squishy type of deal. Like they have the least amount of health, but they got a good amount of FP and a great amount of stamina, similar to just like any type of thief. I'm not sure what the last one could be, but there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of really good ideas that could be spawned through this. And the most interesting thing is the weapons that were chosen for the network test. I'm pretty sure it's not all of them. I think it's going to have everything from Elden Ring and everything from Shadow of the Erd Tree in the game, because they're just reusing assets. And there was already quite a bit of items from just regular Elden Ring. They even had a boss from the Shadow of the Erd Tree, the Golden Hippo, but he wasn't in an enclosed space, so he was a lot easier to deal with. There's now that I think about it, there could be like 10 places, 11 places. They could have quite a bit of maps, because if they're doing, putting in some DLC, they could easily put in like DLC maps as well that you could spawn in. So I don't know. I would say if you're into roguelites, you will definitely enjoy this, especially if you're into also Elden Ring or any sort of Dark Souls like game, because this is quite a treat to run through. Even if you're not into roguelites too much, it's not a big bummer to start at 1 and then go up, because in my opinion, or at least in my viewpoint from what I understand, is whenever I see somebody going through Elden Ring thousands of times, they've made a new character. That's basically this game. You make a new character, you get to 15, you try to do a new run, you understand a little bit. And then when you die, you just make a new character. Like, that's my viewpoint on it, but it could be just misconstrued. I'm not fully sure. There's a lot of features in the game that I feel were kind of over, or a lot, kind of a lot. Like, so if you go to the inventory, you can increase the amount of items for your item pouch, but I feel like they should have a pouch for weapons as well, because if it would be nice to get even more buffs when you have the weapons in your item equipment, you still get the buffs from them. So sometimes it'll say plus damage for two-handing weapon or something like that. I don't know if it was specifically to the weapon or just two-handing a weapon. If it's just two-handing a weapon, I would probably try to do a build of just two-handing weapons, because sometimes that can be really interesting. Let's see, what else was it? The sparring area was okay. I don't think it was the most efficient way it could have been, but I think it was decent for the network test for sure. If it stays the same, I think it might have some problems, but not really. It's one of those kinda, you can fix it, but there's no reason to. There's no reason to, like, it's just extra, and most people probably won't even go to the sparring section for those types of deals, unless it's just to mess around with the new weapons or with the weapons around. I love the abilities that they added to the game. I love some of the new moves that they added to the bosses. It definitely gives a different feel. Some of the bosses do feel absolutely cheese. It's pretty bad that some of the bosses feel so easy. But at the same time, some of the bosses feel stupid. I think the boss I hate the most is like the giant rat and then the small rat, because the small rat chases you down when you're trying to kill the small rat. He starts teleporting because he's like some sort of assassin. Like, so I feel that they're gonna reuse like every mob in Elden Ring in the DLC. Just give us quite a full package regarding this, just from the network test, because this was a small portion. This is like just a little bite size. This is a nibble of the game. And so I think it's really good. I think this is a really good idea regarding how they implemented the roguelite aspect of it, the stats, some of the abilities. There could be more abilities. I will say I hope they add more like roguelite features, abilities. But so far it seems like if you played Warriors of the Abyss, there's something similar to that where the only time you get abilities, like absolutely game-changing abilities, is after you beat a major boss. And that's what this kind of feels like. Most of your abilities are coming from weapons, and even then, they're just like plus damage, plus fire. You know, it's alright, but it's not something that you want to have as your main thing regarding getting special abilities, especially in a roguelite. Like, getting plus damage is great. Getting plus speed is nice, but like having something like every time you hit, every third hit of your claw attacks deal bleed, or every third hit of your claw attacks deal Scarlet Rot or something like that. There was some relics that said on hit deal Scarlet Rot, deal freeze. I don't think they were working though. I didn't ever see poison or Scarlet Rot or freeze or anything like that on them, and I had the relics equipped. So there may be some tweaking that they need to do because some of the features just was not working. I think that's all I have to say. There's not much left. I was just trying to do a little bit of a rambling session on my thoughts on NightReign, but I feel like I feel like this game is gonna definitely be one of those. It's not gonna be game of the year. I think a lot of people are gonna have mixed opinions on it, but I do think it's gonna be a really good game. Let me know in the comments what you think, and have a good day, night, evening. Either one's fine.